Stress Level Zero did not do a super great job handling Bone Lab. In my personal opinion, and in the opinion of many others, it released a little bit too early, and probably was oversold by some people and of course by Stress Level Zero themselves. Let's take a step away from Bone Lab. Instead of doing the typical thing of saying this is what Bone Lab should have done better, or giving a list of things that make Bone Lab bad or things that could improve Bone Lab, let's just forget Bone Lab entirely for a moment and look towards the future of Stress Level Zero and what their next game could entail. And rather than just assuming what Stress Level Zero could do for the next game, why not give them some help? Why not just tell them some of the things that would make the next game incredible? Something that people will remember forever and something that people will play probably forever. So let's start off with number one, which is honestly probably the most requested thing ever. It's multiplayer. We definitely need some form of multiplayer for whatever the next Stress Level Zero game is. Honestly, if we ever get it in Bone Lab, it'll be a miracle. I don't think we ever will outside of mods and stuff like that, but the next game should be released with multiplayer. I should be able to invite at least, at the very least, up to 3 other players to my session and be able to play through either the story with them or play sandbox with them, or maybe even some new custom game modes like a team deathmatch type thing or a racing type thing or something like that. That could be really fun. Just any of that sort of stuff. At least let me invite up to 3 people to a single session and play with them. I think it's a no-brainer. It's something that the next game should just be released with. Number 2 is, of course, mod support. We have it in Bone Lab. It should carry over to whatever the next game is. It should be exactly how it is in Bone Lab, where I can go up to a computer or maybe even just open up a menu or something like that and download mods from Mod.io. In addition to this, though, I think it would be excellent for number 3 to have a level editor, some kind of level editor that's in the game, something that I can customize a little level with in the game. Now, of course, you can have your SDK or whatever like that and have it be, you know, if you wanted super complex stuff, you can have it be how it is now, where you go to Unity and you download the SDK and you do all that other jazz and stuff. But something like an in-game editor, like how Rec Room has, or like how many other games have, I think it would be an excellent idea to throw in an in-game level editor or something. I think it makes no sense to not do this. And of course, number four, is a good story. A good story, or at least a story. When I say story, I mean like campaign. I guess the story is fine or whatever. But the campaign should be excellent because, I mean, let's face it, Bone Lab was a complete disappointment when it came to the campaign. Honestly, it was a disappointment in a lot of fronts, but the campaign was one of the biggest points of disappointment. Not only can it be beaten in like a couple of hours, but you go through like the first maybe hour or maybe 30 minutes, and then you're stuck doing mini games for like 2 hours or an hour or however long it takes you to go through all of it. And then you're just back to story. And then once you're back to the main stuff again, it's just over again almost immediately. It's very disappointing. I think it should be longer. It should have less of these filler levels, like the tower climb one. I think it's called Pillar Climb. The moon level, for example. Monogon Motorway. These are all like filler levels. You don't do anything in them. You basically just walk, or you climb, or you just push a button, and it's over. There's no point in the level even existing if all you have to do is move a couple of minutes forward and it's over. So they should have less filler levels. The levels should be bigger, maybe even number 5 being more open-ended, more open, so I can go to the left or I can go to the right instead of having to go straight forward and then turn and then straight forward and then maybe turn again or something. Most of the levels, at least in Bone Lab, were very linear that way, where you just keep going forward. You're never going back. You're never going to like different directions. You're going the same direction basically every single time you play. This kills replayability, of course, but having the open space will increase the replayability because now there's more to explore in every single level. This would also help you hide more of those weird secret rooms that you have in Bone Lab and stuff like that. So if you wanted to include secret rooms in the future game, this would be another great way to do it. Have the levels be more open. Have it be where I can go multiple different directions to reach the end. Another side of that too would be to have them open-ended. It's not necessarily go from here to go to here and it's over like how it is in Bone Lab currently, where you just literally go until you reach the end. I think it could be interesting where some of the levels are more complex than that. It's like you have to carry something to a certain point, or you have to defeat X enemies to progress to the next thing. I guess Bone Lab technically did that, but still just more open objectives, I guess, could be fun too, where you carry something to a certain point, or you're delivering multiple different items to different points or something. Throw in a couple of levels like that, or at least one level like that or something. Something that's, you know, just make the levels a little bit different rather than just going forward and that's it. Obviously, you have to be really careful with this because the more gimmicky you make the levels, the more filler-like they can feel, the more minigame-esque they can become. But still, I think it could be interesting to have more objectives per level rather than just go from here to get to here, it's over. Next up, we have better enemies. Number 6, better enemies. I don't know why. I have no idea why. They thought the enemies were okay for Bone Lab, but the next game they have to completely redo the enemies. I don't care if you use null bodies and the null hazmat people or whatever, just make them better. Because if your enemies can be defeated by a set of stairs or even just a small plank on the ground, you don't have enemies, you have, I want to say NPCs, but you can't even hardly call them that. I don't know what you could call them, but if I can put a single plank of wood down and they trip over it and hurt themselves, you don't have enemies, you have the most moronic thing just floating around the levels. It's so idiotic. I don't know what's up with that. They can't go up inclines either. They can't go up inclines. They can't go upstairs. They trip all of the time. I don't care if this is an issue with the Marrow engine. Figure out something else. Have them, like, I don't know, floating off the ground or something like that. Since they're floating off the ground, they can't trip anymore. Or rather, it's harder for them to trip at least. And now suddenly, if they're floating, they can float upstairs. Do something with them. Make it so where they just don't fall over all of the time. Figure it out, because almost every other game has enemies that don't just trip all the time, and they still have, you know, complicated physics. Maybe not as complicated as the Marrow engine or whatever, but they still have complicated physics, and they're not just tripping all of the time. Number 7 is going to focus a little bit more on the sandbox side of the Stress Level 0 games. I think we should just start off with all of the items unlocked in sandbox mode. Maybe if you wanted to kind of split it and you still wanted to give them collectibles, if you're going to include like the avatar changer again in the next game, have us unlock avatars that we find randomly in the world or something like that, rather than unlocking Sofa 2 or like Gym Block A or something like that, right? I don't want to unlock all of these things. I want to, when I download the game, be able to immediately go to sandbox mode and immediately play with every single item that the game has to offer. I don't want to unlock the constrainer, which is a dev tool, which is something that you, or a gadget or whatever, which is something you should probably just start with in sandbox mode. It's really ridiculous that you have to play through the entire game finding these random gacha balls for essential pieces of stuff that you need for sandbox mode. I mean, you have to find the constrainer, you have to find the balloon gun, you have to find the board gun. These aren't things that you can just start with for some reason. Give us those things to start with. Give us Sofa B, give us Gym Block B as stuff that we just start with. Give us all of that stuff at the start of the game. Don't make me go out and play the game to unlock all of it. Just give it to me to start with. It's sandbox mode. I should start with everything that sandbox mode has to offer. I shouldn't have to wait to play sandbox mode to its fullest extent. Again, essentially, if you wanted to keep that collection element of it, have it be like random collectibles or something, right? Have it be like a little figurine or something like that you find, and it's almost like an Easter egg. It's like, oh, I found all of them. Many other games have done this before. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, you find these random things throughout the world, you collect them. It doesn't necessarily do anything for you, it's just something random to collect. I think SpongeBob does something like that too, where it's just a random thing for you to collect in the world, and you collect all of them. Mario does the same thing. There's the coins. I think Mario actually has some mechanics with it, but you find the giant coins, and it's like, oh, there's 3 in this level. Oh, there's 3 in this level. How many can I get in each level? How many can I find in all of them? Did I find all of them in this level? This not only increases replayability because people that know there's things to find will go back to them to find them, but you could even, again, throw in some, you know, trophies and achievements, whatever you want to call them, in there too. Like, oh, you found all of them in this level. Here's an achievement. Oh, you found all of them. Here's another achievement. And of course, you could do like a couple of maybe just 1 or 2 sandbox things where like you collect enough coins, you can turn your spawn gun gold or change the color of it or something like that because you unlocked that or something. Stuff like that isn't a big deal, but I should be able to spawn whatever I want to at the get-go. Now, 7 is gonna do with puzzles. The puzzles in Bone Lab were very disappointing. I honestly can't even call them puzzles. I went over all the puzzles before in a previous video. There's about 11 of them, and honestly, some of them are kind of like, is that really a puzzle? I was kind of pushing it a little bit to say that there was that many, which is fair because it's not a puzzle game, but I think you should definitely have some puzzles in your next game, Stress Level 0. You should include some complicated puzzles, some complicated mysteries, or things that you can solve. Maybe even the locked doors that you find, maybe they're not with a key card this time around. Maybe you find them and you have to solve a puzzle to open it. This could be a really fun thing because you could even get away with putting them in plain sight as long as the puzzle was difficult enough. There should be puzzles to progress the level. There should be levels that are just puzzles. There should be just better puzzles that aren't just press this button or move this item to this point to unlock the door. Again, though, it's not necessarily something that is super required for the next game, but I feel like a lot of people will enjoy some good difficult puzzles as well as some good intermediate puzzles, you know, stuff like that where it's just like, oh, this is really fun. If nothing else, put it to the side. Make it like a side game mode where there's just different mini games of like puzzles that you can solve. If nothing else, do that. I think people love puzzles, and I think because of this kind of the story being like almost like an ARG where you have to piece things together and like really think about it and get different pieces of lore hidden across the world or something like that to put together the story. I think you should do something like that maybe with puzzles, or if nothing else, players love to solve things. You know they love to solve mysteries and stuff because the story is kind of all over the place. It's hidden in different sections of different levels on clipboards and stuff like that. It's really hard to follow unless you're like super paying attention, and even when you're paying full attention, you still have to piece things together, figure out what order things are in and everything else. It's a whole complicated thing, and of course, players are doing that. They're solving it. They're putting the story together and everything. You know they love puzzles. Give us puzzles and give us good ones. Maybe nothing super complex, but at least give us good puzzles that can't be solved by a 2-year-old. And finally, I am going to feel a little bit weird asking for this, but I think there should be mini games somewhere in the next game. You could do like how you done with the previous game with Bone Lab, just have it be a hub. You can go here to play some arena-based mini games. You can go here to do some shooting gallery stuff. You can go here to do parkour stuff. You can go here maybe to do some racing stuff. We don't really have any racetracks in Bone Lab, which is kind of strange to think about. Maybe over here for some kind of PvP thing where you're like shooting each other, some kind of team deathmatch type thing, maybe a capture the flag thing or something. Just give us mini games, but don't tie it into the story. Don't make us do every single mini game in the game just to complete the campaign, just to complete the main story. It's unnecessary, but I think mini games are necessary. I think we should have some of those outside, of course, sandbox mode and the main story. So that is my list of things that the next Stress Level 0 game I think should do. Now, of course, there's probably a million other things that they should do and a million things that they could do to make their next game better and a bigger hit. But let me know in the comments below if you have any ideas or suggestions for Stress Level 0. What should they do for the next game? Obviously, I'm probably gonna see a lot of things about the Machine King and everything else like that, but just try not to focus too hard on the story. Just tell me what you think they should include in the next game, and we'll go from there. So let me know in the comments below what they should include in their next game, and of course, please do consider liking, subscribing, and sharing the video around if it so pleases you, because it pleases me a ton. It helps out the channel even more than that, and I greatly appreciate it. So do all those things, and remember, most importantly, to stay asleep.